This little KTM has completely impressed me. Now, I love little bikes. I've ridden lots of little bikes, but I've never ridden a little bike quite like this one. So I've gone out and spent a lot more money to make it that much more fun to ride. And that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna put on a whole parcel of cool new parts. So this isn't really a budget bike build anymore because I think now I've spent more in fun stuff than I did on the original purchase. I've ordered a full exhaust system from Taiga, the high mount race exhaust system with those awesome little pie cut welds, set of rear sets because I was dragging foot pegs, a race illegal airbox from Gray Area KTM, which is supposed to help intake flow, and a power commander and quick shifter. So we're gonna install all that good stuff today. Now, I'm still keeping track of all the weight I've taken off the bike, and I'm hoping the new exhaust system will weigh less. You can see the complete diet plan, the entire spreadsheet down in the description. But to get started, the first thing we gotta do is completely remove all the bodywork. So let's get going. So I thought I was gonna start with the exhaust system, but I think I'm gonna start with the airbox because it's all right there. You know, I'm not gonna lie, this looks exactly like that one. It doesn't look any different. All right, so I just got off the phone with Gray Area KTM. Here's the airbox that was in it. Here is the new airbox, and they're exactly the same. And I was like, did you guys send me the wrong one? But apparently what makes the difference is inside the airbox, and there's no way I can get a camera in there to show you, is there's basically a velocity stacker, an intake runner inside the airbox that is completely different. Maybe you can kind of see in there, I'll try it. This one has a big giant one. But anyway, thank you Gray Area KTM for answering my questions so quickly and putting my mind at ease that I got the right part. All right, so I'll just move hardware from old airbox to new airbox. Now the airbox is out, it's time for the power commander. Power. So many little plugs to so many little places. Take everything apart. Remove airbox. Unplug stock wiring harness. Unplug plug PCV, the stock wiring harness. Figure E, plug stock throttle position connector, figure F. Unplug the coil and put the power commander in line. Coil. Unplug the throttle position sensor and plug in the power commander to the throttle position sensor. Unplug the fuel injector. You go there, you go there. All right, power commander's installed. This will just hook up to the negative ground on the battery. The battery lives right here. So now I think we can install the airbox. Now, some of you might be asking why I am not putting in a free flow air filter. And the answer to that is Utah Motorsports Campus, my home track, is extremely dusty. So I'm not really willing to introduce that much dirt into the top end of my motor for whatever minimal horsepower gains. Instead, I run an illegal airbox mod because I'm not racing and I can do such things because racing has just too many rules. I just want to ride, man. We know the exhaust system has to come off, so I'm just gonna start taking it off, beginning with my amazing exhaust bracket, my custom exhaust bracket. I don't think I'm gonna miss it, despite how amazing it is. Woohoo! That's the catalytic converter. That's it. I thought it was that big giant thing, that big giant resonator, but nope, that's it. I'm sure somebody would like that to sell for precious metals. All right, there's the old exhaust system. It came in at 7.5 kilos. That's like, what, 16 pounds? The new extremely pretty pie cut system came in at under 4 kilos. So that's 8 pounds of savings. All right, so part of this exhaust system means I have to get rid of some cooling lines, reroute some cooling lines. So we need to drain some of my brand new coolant, actually all of my brand new coolant. All right, I know a lot's going on here, but while that's doing that, the rear sets actually require that I have to basically remove the swing arms. So while that's all draining, we're gonna start removing the rear sets, especially now that I have all this extra space in here without the exhaust system. May as well just do it at once. So, a lot happening. Well, that was only mostly painful. Kind of the more complicated rear sets I've ever changed, having to remove the whole axle. Not really crazy about that design, but well, it is what it is. All right, so I think after all of that, we finally get to do the fun part, put the exhaust system on. Yay, it's on. But the sad thing is I can't even hear it until I put the battery back in and the gas tank back on. It looks good. Look at all those little pie cuts. Oh, it looks so nice. All right, so the gas tank's back on. Let's see if I managed to do everything correctly. Those bolts are still loose. All right, day 2 of kind of fixing some of the niggling little things we discovered on the RC390. And in fact, what I was gonna do today is so simple, I hadn't planned on taping it because it's really super straightforward. But one of the problems with the 390 that we've discovered is that it runs awfully hot. In fact, the very first time we rode it, it was about 0 degrees C, which is in 32 degrees in freedom units. And the fan kicked on. Now, there's no reason why the fan should be kicking on at such a low temperature riding on the street. And we pulled the coolant was bright green. It was super happy and healthy. When I was talking about this to Brian, one of the racers on Team Canyon Chasers, King of the Mountain, #1 plate holder, multiple championship winning Brian, BC49 on Instagram, he's like, Dave, just pull the radiator fan. I was like, of course. Now, pulling the radiator fan is actually very common in race bikes because they don't ever get stuck in stop and go traffic. There's really no need to have a fan to force air through the radiator because the bike is always moving. So thought that'd be pretty straightforward, pull the radiator fan out. And when I did, this is what I discovered. I've never seen anything quite like this. This is the radiator fan. Like look at that thing. How much air is that thing letting through? Now, it's vented at the bottom, but when the thing is just in motion, it's completely blocking airflow. Now, here's the radiator shroud for comparison, because I'm not gonna pull the whole radiator off. Look at how much of the radiator is blocked by that fan. So yeah, that's going away. And then if we look at the shroud, these vents are designed to kind of protect debris from hitting the radiator. but I think they're also significantly reducing airflow. So on a motorcycle that has problems overheating, it's a little frustrating to me that KTM would get the shape of the shroud really great, does a great job of funneling air into the radiator, but then completely drop the ball with this fan. So what I'm gonna do today, fan's already off, that's not a big deal, but I'm gonna cut out these fins and I'm going to put just some traditional expanded metal mesh to help protect the radiator from stones. And hopefully these two things will help the bike run a lot cooler. Okay, that's first pass. I think that's already gonna let more air through. And then a shout out to Dremel. I was just thinking, my dad bought me this for Christmas, I think when I was 15 or 16, so 1980 something. That's a lot of years for a simple little tool like that. So yeah, go Dremel. Now, because I'm me, I'm gonna have to clean this up. I can't let this look like this. So I think more Dremel action's in order. Now, one thing I've really enjoyed about the KTM so far is that parts are really cheap. So even if I overheat and warp the head, a whole new head from KTM is $300. And I just looked up this part in case I botched it up, $14 for one of these. But I think that's a lot better. I think that's gonna add a lot more airflow. Let's send a photo to Brian and see if he approves of our progress. See, Brian says, he says, solved. Look at that. So if championship winning engineer Brian says problem solved, I think problem solved, don't you think? Now, for the expanded metal, all I've ever used is this, it's what they use for tile. It's just the expanded metal. It's the right weight, it's the right flexibility. It's easy enough to work with. You gotta be careful about cutting your hands. And then the thought is to put it inside of this, because we don't want this metal touching the actual radiator, because it'll eventually do damage to the radiator. So we'll just kind of bend it and shape it to get it to fit inside there. All right, I think we're about ready to assemble it. I sprayed my mesh, shaped in there. We're just gonna pop rivet it in place. And I think we're gonna have actually more protection and better airflow. Pretty simple project, but I think it's gonna have big benefits for the longevity of that little KTM, which I've grown to really love that little bike. All right, there it is, assembled. You know, that was what, 10 bucks for the expanded metal, and the time it took to trim it and paint it and put it together. I probably spent more time moving the camera around than I did actually building the thing. I will report back as to if that actually works for helping the bike stay cooler. All right, it's now a few days later. We are heading off to Moto Station for some dyno tuning. You know, by changing the pipe in that airbox, the bike definitely is gonna need a remap. We have one of the best dyno tuners I know of. Randy's gonna be doing the work for us. And the goal is, I don't really care what the end horsepower number is. I'm really hoping for really awesome, perfect throttle response off the bottom, because that's kind of where the bike has been struggling. It's a little flat coming out of corners. So that's our goal for today. But it's always fun to see what the horsepower number ends up being. All right, so let's do this. And the bike is finished. I can't think much more to do to it other than just ride it and put more miles on it. The dyno numbers, the first dyno run, which isn't really a very fair run because the bike wasn't at all set up for the pipe and the airbox. 38 horsepower. And by the time Randy was done with it, his magical touch, 46 horsepower. That's a pretty significant improvement for such a small motorcycle. So yeah, Moto Station, once again, thank you. They have been amazing throughout this whole build. Check them out. They're a fantastic motorcycle shop, especially if you're in the area. There's nobody else you can trust your motorcycle to than Moto Station. With that said, this being the series finale, for those who tuned in and watched, thank you so much. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. If you guys want to see more series like this, let me know in the comments below. Maybe we'll turn it into something we do basically over the course of every winter. Guys, again, thank you so much for watching. Ride on and ride well.